Chapter 20, The Last Demon. The battlefield stretched endlessly, a plain of black stone etched with glowing red cracks that pulsed like veins. Above, the sky wasn't sky. It was a swirling mass of darkness and fire, tearing open to reveal glimpses of other worlds, other realities bending and collapsing into themselves. At the center of it stood the last demon. Its towering body was wrapped in chains of black steel that moved like living serpents, each one tipped with hooks dripping a burning red liquid. The demon's form was both skeletal and muscular, its flesh glowing faintly as if fire burned beneath the surface. Its head was a mask of shadow, with two eyes burning like dying stars, and its voice rolled across the battlefield like an earthquake. "You have come to erase me, Storm. You have come to strike the maker of hell." The chains around its arms rattled, and the ground cracked as it flexed its massive claws. "I made the trials that forged you. I made the demons that broke you. I made the chains that you now wield. You are mine." Deagan's own chains hummed, burning with cold white fire. His cracked body flared brighter, pieces of him glowing like shards of a dying star. His voice was low, steady, cutting through the roar. "I'm nobody's weapon anymore." The last demon stepped forward, and with its first step, reality shattered. The ground warped, the sky split, and gravity itself shifted, pulling everything toward the demon. The red cracks in the stone erupted, spilling rivers of molten fire that carved paths across the battlefield. "If you will not serve me, you will die as nothing." With a roar that tore the air, the master swung its colossal chain, the hook screaming as it cut through space itself. The strike came faster than anything that size should move, splitting the ground into two. Deagan leapt aside, landing on a shard of floating stone as the chain crashed where he stood, the impact creating a crater that glowed like a volcano. He swung his own chains, wrapping them around a floating shard and launching himself toward the giant. The white fire cut through the air, searing into the master's side. The creature roared, twisting, but instead of pain, its burning eyes flared brighter. "Good fight, show me why I made you." It swung its arm, and dozens of black chains erupted from the ground, lashing out in every direction. Each chain moved like a serpent, wrapping around anything it touched, pulling it into the molten cracks. Deagan twisted, dodging, his chains slicing through the black steel, but every one he destroyed split into two more. The master's voice rolled across the battlefield. "Every strike you land, every piece you break, feds me. You cannot win by force." The sky burned red as meteors of black fire rained down. The battlefield tilted, shards of stone breaking free, floating upward into the storm. The demon moved like a god, swinging its chains with precision, forcing Deagan to leap from shard to shard as the ground disintegrated beneath him. He landed on the demon's shoulder, chains burning as he wrapped them around its neck. The white fire seared through the black steel, burning into the creature's flesh. The last demon reached up, ripping the chains free with one hand, and threw Deagan across the battlefield like a rag doll. He hit the stone hard, cracks spreading through his already fractured body. The white fire inside him flickered, struggling to hold him together. The demon stepped closer, its shadow swallowing the ground. "You are breaking, Storm. You were never meant to stand against me. You were meant to become me." Deagan staggered to his feet, his body trembling, his voice a cold whisper. "You're wrong, you made me win." His chains flared brighter than ever, their light blinding, cutting through the red glow of the battlefield. The master roared, the ground splitting wide as rivers of molten fire rose, the air warping under the heat. The two forces stared at each other, and for a brief moment everything stilled. Then they charged. The impact tore the world apart. When Deagan's chains met the black hooks of the master, the collision tore a hole in the world. Light and shadow exploded outward, ripping the sky open and bending the floating shards of the battlefield. Rivers of molten fire rose upward, as if gravity had lost its meaning. The last demon swung with both arms, the black chains spiraling like snakes, smashing through the air with a force that shattered floating stone islands into dust. Each strike bent space, warping the battlefield around them. Deagan dodged, barely staying ahead of the storm of chains. He anchored his own links into the shards, pulling himself through the chaos with unnatural speed, white fire trailing like a comet. He struck from above, his chains searing into the master's shoulder, burning through black steel. The wound sizzled, but instead of weakening, the demon's fire spread brighter, feeding on the damage. You cannot kill the Maker with the weapons it gave you. The last demon stomped, sending a shockwave that cracked the battlefield into floating fragments. Deagan was thrown upward, spinning through the storm of molten rock. Before he could recover, the master's chain whipped around him like a serpent, coiling tightly, crushing his body. The hooks dug into his flesh, and the black steel burned cold, draining the fire from his cracks. The master's voice thundered. Every piece you lose, every scream you hold back, BACOMES mine. The chains tightened, snapping his ribs. His cracks spread wider, glowing faintly as the white fire sputtered. For a moment, the storm of pain almost silenced him. Almost. Through the crushing darkness, he growled, forcing his arms to move. His own chains snapped outward, wrapping around the black links, burning through them even as they consumed pieces of himself. The explosion tore him free, but half his body shattered into fragments of white light. He fell to one knee, his form flickering. The last demon stepped closer, towering above him, the battlefield collapsing into the chasm below. Look at you, fractured, FADING. You will break, and then you will be reborn as me. Deagan rose slowly, the white fire in his eyes burning so bright it cut through the storm. His voice was raw, cracked, but unyielding. I'm not becoming you, I'm ending you. The master swung again, its chain tearing through the air. Deagan leapt, catching the hook mid-swing. The black steel burned into his hand, eating away his flesh, but he held it, the white fire consuming his arm as he poured everything into it. The chains on his back erupted, wrapping around the black weapon, forcing it to twist and shatter. The master roared, its massive frame shaking as Deagan yanked the broken chain upward, flipping himself onto the demon's chest. He slammed both hands into its core, the white fire searing into the black flesh. The last demon howled, its voice splitting the sky. You burn yourself to destroy me, you will die first. Deagan's body was crumbling, cracks spilling white fire like blood, but he pushed harder, his voice a whisper that echoed like thunder. Then I'll die, taking you with me. The master's chains erupted, stabbing through him in dozens of places. He didn't stop. The white fire spread through the demon's body like a virus, burning the black steel from the inside. The battlefield convulsed, the sky ripping open, and the ground collapsing into a storm of fire and darkness. The white fire crawled across the last demon's body, burning cracks into its massive frame. Instead of falling, the creature let out a roar so deep it split the sky, and the battlefield answered. The ground shattered completely, the fragments rising into the air like shards of glass. Rivers of molten fire spiraled upward, twisting around the black chains that extended from the demons back into the sky. The chains embedded themselves into the floating islands, pulling them into a swirling vortex that encircled the monster. The last demon's burning eyes widened, the fire inside them flaring. If you would burn me, then I will become everything. Its body dissolved into a storm of black steel and fire, chains stretching across the entire horizon. The sky darkened until it was a single, massive vortex of chains, hooks, and screaming fire. The battlefield wasn't just collapsing, it was becoming part of the demon itself. Deagan stood on a crumbling shard of stone, his body barely holding together. His cracks leaked white fire like blood, his form flickering as pieces of him crumbled to ash. The storm of chains lashed out from every direction, faster than thought. Each hook ripped pieces of the floating world apart, and every strike that grazed him tore chunks of his glowing flesh away. Still he moved. Swinging from shard to shard, the chains around his arms burned brighter than ever. Each strike he landed shattered black steel, only for more to grow back, stronger, hungrier. The demon's voice thundered from everywhere at once, shaking reality itself. "You think you are the storm. I am the world that contains it." A massive chain erupted from the ground beneath him, impaling through his chest and lifting him into the air. His vision blurred. His cracks widened, spilling fire into the air like dying stars. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. The last demon's colossal form towered around him, its chains coiled tight, its fire burning hotter than the sun. "Burn, storm, burn and become me." And Deagan smiled. Even as his body shattered, the white fire inside him did not dim. It flared brighter, blinding, burning through the black chain, impaling him. His voice came out quiet but sharp, cutting through the roar of the storm. "I'm not burning to become you. I'm burning to erase you." The chains that had been part of him, now fully alive, exploded outward in every direction. They wrapped around the black storm, piercing through every chain, every piece of the demon's sprawling body. The white fire spread through the black steel, eating it alive. The last demon screamed, the sound tearing holes through the sky. "You are tearing yourself apart." Deagan roared back, his voice raw, filled with the cold fury of everything he had become. "Good." The explosion that followed devoured the world. White fire clashed with black flames, consuming the battlefield entirely. The vortex collapsed, the chains of the demons snapping one by one, shattering into fragments that burned away into nothing. The last demon's voice rose one last time, fractured, desperate. "If I fall, all falls with me." The white fire tore through its core, ripping it open, breaking it from the inside. The massive form of the master crumbled, disintegrating into ash and light, its scream fading into silence as its final chains dissolved into the void. When the flames cleared, there was no battlefield, no sky. Just Deagan, kneeling on nothing, his form little more than a skeleton of cracks held together by faint white light. The chains coiled loosely around him, dim and quiet. He lifted his head. The last demon was gone. But the void around him trembled. Something far greater than the demon's roar filled the silence, the collapse of hell itself. The void trembled like a dying beast. What was left of hell, every shattered fragment of every realm Deagan had walked through, hung suspended in the air, breaking apart piece by piece. Rivers of fire bled upward into nothing. The red lightning above flickered once, then died. Deagan stood in the center of the unraveling, swaying on his feet. His body was barely there, only a shell of glowing cracks and fatting white fire. Each breath felt like tearing apart what was left of him. From the dissolving mist, the cloaked figure appeared one last time. This time it was different. Its cloak no longer rippled with power. The white lights where its eyes had been were dim, almost gone. It walked slowly, as if weighed down by something far greater than fear. "You did it." The figure's voice was hoarse, trembling. "You killed the master. You destroyed the chains that held this place together." The cracks in the void widened, and the fragments of the world fell into nothingness. The figure turned its head, watching the destruction. "Do you understand what you've done, Storm? Without the master, hell dies, and with it everything tied to it." Deagan's voice was faint but cold. "That was the point." The figure lowered its head, its voice soft. "And you, Deagan, what are you now? You are not a man, you are not a soul, you are not even the storm anymore. You are something else." The ground beneath them cracked, falling away. Only a small fragment remained, floating in the endless void. The figure stepped closer. There is still a choice. You can let the fire inside you fade and you will wake, weak, human, and mortal. You will bleed and you will hurt, but you will live. Or, it looked up at the collapsing horizon. You can stay, rule the ruins, rebuild hell in your image. You have the power, it is yours to take. For a moment, silence. Deagan stood still, white fire flickering weakly. His chains hung loose, smoking faintly. He could feel the pull, the warm, distant light calling him back to the world of the living. He could also feel the cold, endless freedom of the void, promising power beyond anything he had known. The figure's voice trembled again. Choose storm, wake and suffer, or stay and become something no world has ever seen. Deagan closed his eyes. He remembered Mara's voice, whispering through the storm, "Come back to me." He remembered his mother's hands, holding his as she cried. He remembered every demon, every trial, every pain. The chains rattled faintly, burning brighter for a brief moment. His voice was steady, absolute. "I'm not staying here." The figure tilted its head. "Then you will wake." Deagan turned, the white fire leaking from his cracks flaring. "No, I'm taking both." The void itself trembled. The figure stepped back, almost in fear. "Impossible." Deagan walked toward the collapsing edge, his chains coiling tightly around him, glowing so bright they lit the darkness. His voice cut through the falling silence. "Watch me." The white fire erupted, consuming him, consuming everything. The last fragments of hell shattered and fell into the void. In the hospital, a heart monitor beeped. Deagan's eyes snapped open. He gasped, sitting upright, tubes tearing free, the machine screaming alarms. Nurses rushed in, shouting, Mara crying his name as she burst into the room. His mother collapsed to her knees, sobbing. But his eyes still burned faintly white.